For many years, Americans have experienced relatively effortless access to travel destinations across the globe. However, as global politics continue to shift, immigration policies tighten, and new regulations emerge, several countries are beginning to close their doors to U.S. passport holders. Whether due to diplomatic disputes, stricter visa regulations, or national security concerns, some nations are making it more difficult than ever for Americans to visit. Today on Globe Discoveries, we are counting down the 10 countries that are restricting or outright banning American travelers in 2025. If you're planning a trip abroad, it may be wise to double-check your destination, because some of these places simply won't let you in. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on more global travel updates. Number 10. Russia has always had a complicated relationship with the United States, but in 2025 entry for American travelers is becoming even more challenging. Ongoing geopolitical tensions and sanctions have led the Russian government to tighten its visa policies, making it far harder for U.S. citizens to obtain travel permits. According to the Russian Foreign Ministry, new security measures are resulting in longer processing times and closer scrutiny of American applications. These restrictions follow strained diplomatic relations, particularly after U.S.-imposed sanctions. As a result, travelers now face additional hurdles such as mandatory in-person interviews and stricter documentation requirements. Even those already in Russia report increased monitoring and surveillance, with heightened security in hotels, public spaces, and transportation hubs. Reuters has even noted cases of Americans being subjected to intense questioning at entry points. Unless diplomatic relations improve, Russia is expected to maintain these restrictions for the foreseeable future. For now, Americans dreaming of visiting Moscow's Red Square or St. Petersburg's historic landmarks may need to reconsider. Number 9. China has been steadily tightening restrictions on American visitors, citing national security concerns and deteriorating U.S.-China relations. In 2025, stricter visa rules and enhanced screening processes are making travel increasingly difficult. The U.S. State Department reports that Chinese authorities are closely examining past travel history, digital footprints, social media activity, and even personal communications before granting visas. This has led to lengthy approval processes, frequent denials, and added complications for tourists, journalists, and business travelers alike. Additionally, China has expanded its use of exit bans, preventing individuals from leaving the country during investigations or diplomatic disputes. Several U.S. citizens traveling for work or family reasons have reported being detained for questioning, raising further safety concerns. With relations between the two nations remaining tense, there is no clear indication of when these restrictions will ease. Number 8. North Korea has long been one of the most closed and secretive nations on Earth, and in 2025 its borders remain firmly shut to American citizens. The North Korean government continues to completely ban U.S. travelers, citing ongoing sanctions, diplomatic standoffs, and security threats. According to the U.S. State Department, Americans who attempt to enter North Korea risk arrest, detention, and harsh legal consequences. In earlier years, specialized tour operators occasionally facilitated limited visits under strict supervision, but these opportunities have now been eliminated. Political tensions, espionage concerns, and reports of detainees being used as bargaining chips have only worsened the situation. With no U.S. embassy in North Korea, detained Americans have no diplomatic or legal support. Unless relations shift drastically, this travel ban is expected to remain indefinitely, making North Korea one of the most forbidden destinations for U.S. travelers. Number 7. Iran's tense relationship with the United States continues to affect travel in 2025. Due to ongoing disputes, sanctions, and security concerns, entry for Americans has become increasingly restricted. The Iranian Foreign Ministry now requires extensive background checks and prolonged visa processing. More concerning, human rights organizations report multiple cases of Americans, particularly dual citizens, being detained on vague charges of espionage or threats to national security. U.S. officials warn travelers of the high risk of arrest and the lack of available diplomatic assistance. To complicate matters further, Americans must apply for visas through a third country and undergo rigorous screenings before approval. These strict policies have deterred many from even attempting to visit Iran, which remains one of the most difficult destinations for U.S. citizens. Number 6. Venezuela. Once a popular destination for Americans, Venezuela has become increasingly restricted and unsafe. In 2025, the Venezuelan government has tightened visa requirements and imposed new travel bans on U.S. citizens, citing accusations of foreign interference. The U.S. Department of State notes that Venezuela continues to have one of the highest crime rates in the world, with frequent kidnappings, robberies, and violent crimes targeting foreigners. Economic collapse has made matters worse, with hyperinflation, food shortages, and unreliable infrastructure making travel extremely difficult. The absence of strong U.S.-Venezuela diplomatic relations means Americans have little to no consular support if they face problems. Until political and economic stability improves, Venezuela will remain one of the most dangerous and restricted destinations for U.S. travelers. Number 5. Saudi Arabia. Although Saudi Arabia has been promoting tourism in recent years, 2025 has seen the introduction of stricter policies for Americans. The Saudi government has imposed tougher visa requirements, lengthier approval times, and higher fees. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, these changes are part of efforts to strengthen national security and control foreign influence. U.S. travelers now face additional background checks and restrictions on visiting certain regions, including areas near Yemen and select religious sites. Reports indicate that Americans face closer monitoring during their stay, and any violations of local laws can result in severe punishment. While business and religious travel remain possible, Saudi Arabia has become far less accessible for casual tourism. Number 4. Cuba. In 2025, Cuba has once again tightened travel rules for Americans, adding another obstacle in the long history of strained U.S.-Cuba relations. New requirements now force Americans to apply for visas through third-party countries, making the process longer and more costly. The Cuban government also limits what U.S. visitors can do while in the country, restricting independent tourism and requiring participation in government-approved tours. Combined with worsening economic conditions, including fuel shortages and poor infrastructure, travel has become more challenging and less appealing. The U.S. government warns its citizens of limited consular assistance and increased surveillance by Cuban authorities. Unless diplomatic ties improve, Cuba will remain a restricted and closely monitored destination for Americans. Number 3. Belarus. Belarus has imposed new restrictions on American travelers in 2025, largely due to its close alliance with Russia and worsening tensions with Western countries. The Belarusian Foreign Ministry now requires U.S. citizens to undergo extensive screening and provide detailed justifications for their visits. Those who have traveled to Ukraine, Poland, or other EU countries face even stricter scrutiny. The U.S. Department of State has issued a do not travel advisory, citing risks of arbitrary detention, surveillance, and restrictions on movement. Foreign journalists, activists, and business professionals have been particularly targeted, making Belarus a highly unwelcoming destination for Americans. Number 2. Afghanistan. Since the Taliban regained power in 2021, Afghanistan has been one of the most dangerous places in the world for Americans. By 2025, the country has completely banned U.S. citizens from entering. There is no official visa process for Americans, effectively closing the borders. Reports highlight arbitrary detentions, human rights abuses, and targeted attacks against foreigners, especially those who previously worked with U.S. organizations. The State Department continues to warn of high risks of terrorism, kidnappings, and government abuses. With no formal diplomatic relations between the U.S. and the Taliban, travel to Afghanistan is considered impossible for Americans in the foreseeable future. Number 1. Turkmenistan. Turkmenistan remains one of the most closed-off countries in the world, and in 2025, it is nearly impossible for Americans to enter. The government frequently denies or indefinitely delays visa applications, citing national security and public health concerns. Even before these restrictions, Turkmenistan was known for its extremely difficult visa process and tight governmental control. Travelers are required to join official guided tours, and their movements, communications, and internet use are heavily monitored. According to Human Rights Watch, Turkmenistan operates one of the most repressive regimes in the world, making it especially challenging for foreigners, particularly Americans, to visit. Unless a major policy shift occurs, Turkmenistan will remain one of the most inaccessible destinations on the planet. From war-torn regions to politically isolated states, these 10 countries have made it increasingly difficult, or outright impossible, for Americans to visit in 2025. Whether due to diplomatic conflicts, national security risks, or restrictive government policies, these travel bans highlight the rapidly changing global landscape. If you're planning international travel, it's more important than ever to stay informed, verify visa requirements, and understand potential risks before booking your trip. Which of these restrictions surprised you the most? Have you personally faced difficulties while traveling abroad? Share your experiences in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more global travel insights.